Hey everyone, this is Ming. I recently placed 21st at the Gencon regionals with the 100 girlfriends, and I've been getting a lot of interest in my deck list. So here's a video breaking down why I took this to Gencon, the reasoning behind the deck, my overall game plan, other cards to consider, and my matchups during the regional. First of all, why did I take 100 girlfriends to Gencon? In case you haven't seen it, our first two-time regional winner, Spencer, posted a short video saying 100 girlfriends would not be meta relevant, and everyone seemed to agree. So I took that as a challenge to top with it and prove everyone wrong. Now, when it comes to 100 girlfriends, the set definitely seemed underpowered compared to the other decks in the meta. In order to win, I would have to find something powerful in the set that no other set can do, which is how I came to the 3-cost Shizuka. This card is an unassuming 3-cost 3k that can buff something by 1k, but the most powerful effect is that I can pay 1 AP when played to match my opponent's hand size. When I saw this line of text, I knew this would be the core of the deck. Even if my cards are individually weaker than my opponents, if I just have more of them, I should be able to make up the difference in power level. With that in mind, here's how the rest of the deck came together. I want to play my broken card in every single game, so first I would need to draw it. That's why I'm playing all of these draw cards that go through more of my deck, whether they're draw triggers, draw effects, or scry effects. So starting with Karane, we have a 2k for 0, and it's a draw trigger. That's a good start. Hakari is a 15 draw trash, and it's a draw trigger, so it draws twice, whether it's in life or in hand. We have Nano, which draw trashes. The 2-cost Nano, this looks at the top 2, and I can place them in the top or the sideline. Essentially, it gets 2 deeper for my 3-cost. This Nano also draw trashes when attacking, and this Nano draws a card once played, and it also looks at the top card of the deck and puts it on top or in the sideline when attacking. However, just drawing isn't enough. If I clog up my hand with cards by the time I draw Shizuka, I can't get any value out of it. So the next piece of the puzzle is emptying my hand and getting additional value by doing so. First, we have Shizuka Color Trigger. This one just plays an extra card from hand for free, so it takes away 2 cards for 1 AP. This raid can also discard a card to bounce a 4-cost or higher. This Nano, despite drawing a card, can also trash a card to reduce the AP cost of the next card with 3 or less required energy by 1. So it can minus 2 cards for the cost of 1. Then there are cards that just discard 1 card to gain 1k. So we have a Hikari 2-drop, as well as the Shizuka 3-drop, which if you have another copy in hand, you can use the one on your field to discard all the cards before playing the second one. And the main combo you want to do with this deck is to start with raiding Nano. You want to draw a card, trash a card, play something for free, which may be a final. If you use your free AP to withstand 2 other AP, you can just empty out your whole hand through your turn, and at the end of your turn, when your whole hand is empty except for her, you just draw it all back. After I get the extra value and card advantage over my opponent, I can start blocking more liberally because I can refill my board with the extra cards in hand. When I get to this point, I just need to focus on getting enough hits through to bring my opponent's life to 0. The cards I need for this are my specials and my Shizuka raids to open a hole and swing under 4 costs. By having so much draw in the deck, it's pretty realistic to get 4 of my 8 removals by the end of the game. Alternatively, if I have enough of a life advantage, I can grind people out by forcing them to block my 4k swings first. This plan comes up mostly if I draw too much of my removal before I get to the 3-cost Shizuka, so I don't have the removal by the time I need to finish the game. Despite having so much card advantage and combo potential, I would classify this as an aggro deck, because this deck needs to think about putting on as much pressure as possible starting from turn 1. If I'm going second, sometimes I just want to put a 2k or a 25 up front to block my opponent's backline before they get a chance to do the first damage. And the main goal of this deck is to try to push as much damage as I can so that I get a life advantage and can play around blocking out and sneaking damage through when I can. If my opponent stabilizes early enough by using their finals and lowering the hand size before my Shizuka can pop off, it becomes a really tough game. It's not impossible to win from that position because my opponent will have run out of resources, so if I see enough removal for their threats, I'll still be favored. With all that said, this was all hypothetical until the day of the regional, because I didn't own any of the cards in the deck, except the 4 championship finals I got from the earlier events. I borrowed most of the cards from my teammate, Greg, got dismissed, but he only had 2 copies of this 2-cost Akari, so I was missing the last 2 cards until that Sunday morning. Funnily enough, I got the last few cards from Carius, who beat me in the finals of the 1v1 side event earlier that weekend, so I'll forgive him for top decking the win. Also shout out to my teammate Matt Carner for calling everyone he knew in the area to find me these 2 cards, and that was just 10 minutes before the deck list had to be submitted. So it was a tightrope, but we made it. And here are some other cards I considered and would have tested if I had more time. First we have Nano and Shizuka, the 15 get triggers. I don't really like these too much because I don't want these cards in hand. I'd rather dig through my deck to get closer to my 3-cost Shizuka when possible. Rentaro does do that, but at the cost of a trigger, and looks at the top 3, this can also bottom all my specials, which is my win condition. So if I see them with the search, I am probably losing the game. Shizuka. This character can't be blocked by 4 costs or more. I thought about using anywhere from 1 to 4 copies before, but it just felt awkward. If I needed this to finish the game, it's already on the field and they can see it coming, so they can just put up something that can block this character. Then we have the 2-cost Nano. I'm only playing 2 in the main deck because that's all I could fit, but if I could fit 2 more, I definitely would. We have the Shizuka 2-drop. This one buffs something by 1k, but because it's just a 2k body, I can't push it up to get damage through later in the game, and everything else that is already 3k can buff itself to 4k. So I don't really need this to finish a game, but it could help if I need the additional triggers. Then we have Karane. This one is a very weird card. So when played, it just lets your opponent draw a card. It is a double energy step, but I don't really like playing double energies in this deck, because by doing so, I would have to skip a turn of pushing up my bodies and getting swings in. Also giving my opponent a card just for a chance to get my own copy when I play my 3-cost Shizuka, and at worst, it just gives them a card and I don't even get it back. So it didn't make the cut. The other double energy, Nano, I played this when I was first testing it. Draw Trash is pretty good, it's a draw trigger. The only thing I don't like about it is it's a 3-cost. And using a 3-cost slot to play an energy generation instead of something that can get damage in on that same turn, it just felt a bit slow. And then we have Kusuri. This is just one of them, but the same thing with all the Kusuris. They draw you cards, and that's the last thing I want to do in this deck. Because if they keep drawing me cards and I don't run out of cards in hand, I can't get full value out of my Shizuka. And at that point, I'm just playing a worse version of all the other decks in the meta, instead of doing something powerful that only I can do. And then we have the 4-2 Nano. This is a color trigger, and it's very expensive. A 4-2, I don't really like staying at 4 energy unless it's just to play the raid and then going back to 3. Although the impact might come in handy if I needed to finish a game, but it just felt too slow to play in this deck. We have the Medicine Reversing Medicine. This deraids either my opponent or returns a raid to my hand. If it surprises my opponent and gets me an additional damage in, it can be good, but it requires me to have a raid that survived through my opponent's turn, or I just have to raid it twice on my same turn, which can be done, but it's very situational. I don't see myself playing this before I play my 3-1 Shizuka because it also draws a card. So if I draw it late game, after I've drawn all the cards I need to, sure, it can be fine. But I don't want it to clog up my hand in case I get it before then. The same thing with Circlet Love Story. Although I can use it before just to get damage in, the impact and the BP feels like a game finisher. I'd want it to see it only after I've drawn all my cards, and I can't guarantee that, so it didn't make the cut. Now on to the actual regional run and my matchups. In round 1, I faced a yellow Ava player who unfortunately had to AP draw the first couple of turns, As a result, he had a full hand and allowed me to draw 6 cards when I played Shizuka. Despite that, he played well and brought the game close with several 4-cost rays that I couldn't interact with. I ended up winning, but that was a scary start for the day. In round 2, I played against a red Kenshin, and I felt very confident going into that matchup, because I could easily raid and push up most of my energy line without worrying about breaking, because I only need 3 energy to play the game, as you can see by the 24 threes here, and everything else is low. With the free blocks and 8 removals for their raids, the game went very smoothly. In round 3, I played against Shadow Army, and this was a deck I dreaded playing into. This is absolutely my worst matchup, because they're as defensive as I am, but they have the additional offense in their Snipe Impact raid. My Shizuka raid also does nothing against them, because their units are less than 4 cost, or they come inactive like Igris, or definitely not bouncing the Sniper. I don't want to give them a Snipe Impact back to hand. Surprisingly though, I ended up winning this game, but that was just because they had a slow start and only saw 1 raid, and I ended up with 4 specials in hand. Granted, only 1 was necessary to win the game, but at the end, they had 3 units and I had 3 specials in hand, so I just had to do it to them. In my 4th match, I was supposed to play against Red Chihiro, but my opponent failed a deck check after their last game, so I got a free win. After that came my downfall. I played against a yellow Ava player that had very good life triggers. That had a Misato on curve to play an Asuka out of life, a special, and a yellow color trigger. So for a deck that struggles to finish a game like mine, missing those 3 damage was too much to overcome. Next, I played against another Shadow Army player, but this time they saw everything they needed to. Multiple raids, all the defensive options, and even though I almost decked out by drawing so much, I didn't have the gas to finish the game, because their defensive wall was just too strong. With those 2 losses though, I thought my earlier wins were a fluke, and I wouldn't win another game after this. My 7th match was against a yellow Sakamoto player. I was nervous coming into this, because I haven't played against a yellow Sakamoto yet, but I know how strong the deck can be. I went in with my normal aggro game plan, and he countered by raiding the fast Sakamoto raid to stop my aggression. As he did this though, I realized he was low on Sakamoto raid targets, so I kept bouncing the raid until he ran out. Then I killed the fast Sakamoto when he had to play a vanilla. This ended up helping me later on because he saw multiple skinny raids, and he had no raid targets left, so he couldn't get the free place. This was also a player that blocked, unfortunately, with his only 3 costs when I had a Shizuka raid on the field, so when I swung with her, he couldn't block anymore. I don't think it made a difference in the game, but he said he thought this was unblockable by 4Ks or higher. That's why he blocked with the 3 costs, because he assumed his 35, Lu Xiaotang, could block this one, but unfortunately it could not. For my 8th round, I played against another red Kenshin and went with the same game plan. It went just as well, even though this Kenshin player drew a bit better than the last one. He had me sweating with a really fast start, but luckily I drew enough removal to halt his advance and eventually closed out the game by just swinging over his bodies. I was hoping this would be the end of the tournament, and I'll have accomplished my goal of top 32, but I heard my teammate Legit Volkos, Tyler, won in a pair down, so we had another round. For the last round, I got paired up with Brad from the UA Collective group, and I played him in the 1v1 side event, so I knew how good he was. Luckily, he wasn't very familiar with my deck because I was playing exclusively Blue Slime until the main event, and I knew the exact spear build he was playing. I ended up using that to my advantage to draw probably double what he did, and was able to sneak in damage from my Shizuka raid for the win and my top 32 placing. Overall, the deck performed way better than I expected it to, probably due to my opponents not understanding what my deck did, but I'll take whatever advantages I can get. And that was my deck profile and regionals run. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. Bye!